avoidance of failure has come from listening very, very intently.
We've had the most beautiful experience off the back of asking people for help. Start somewhere, and then, like Saskia said, chip away at it, build in the dark, sculpture in the dark. You won't see what it is, no one will see what it is until one day you take the veil.
Welcome to this week's episode of Women Are Good Business, the podcast. And this week we are talking things biscuits with Lisa and Saskia from the Biskery. Now, they are on a mission to have 10 million people feel appreciated in biscuit form. They're going to explain to us how they got to where they are with their business, what they've learned along the way, and where they're going next, and their mission for 10,000 biscuits. So join me in welcoming them both to the podcast today. Saskia, Lisa, welcome to Women Are Good Business, the podcast. We are excited to have the dream team from the Biscuitery joining us today. So to kick us off, can you each just do a quick intro and tell us a little bit about your life before starting the business together?
Let's start. Yep. I'm Lisa. I was born and raised in Germany, moved to the UK 13 years ago. I studied languages in Vienna, moved to the UK to find a job in a digital marketing agency, and that's where I met Saskia. And about a year later, we started what is now the Biskery.
And I am Saskia, born and raised in the Netherlands, moved to the UK in 2010 actually, and started working in a digital marketing agency where I met Lisa, like she said. And yeah, the rest is what we'll talk about next, I guess.
Brilliant. So I think it's our most international episode, so I'm loving this. So what was it that triggered you to leave those kind of corporate-y type jobs and start out? And then also, can you tell us a little bit about what the business is, what its purpose is?
Yeah, I think to answer your first question, when I came back from maternity leave after having my daughter, I was my senior title was taken away from me. And that was quite a pivotal moment for me because I had worked really hard up to that point to get my senior title. Then I had a child, was on maternity leave as most women do, came back, and the first act was that. And I tried to fight it. I tried to explain that I would still be client facing. I would work as flexibly as I could. And it was just a hard no. And I think that was the moment where I thought, there's no future for me here. I just don't believe in this enough to put all my energy and all my ambitions into this if you kind of cut this where, for no apparent reason in my head, because I felt I had a lot to give. And they didn't want to receive it. So we kind of put our energy into our own little business. And maybe you want to answer the second question.
Yeah, so the Biskery is a personalized branded biscuit bakery. We only do biscuits. When we started off many years ago, we did cakes, pies, an array of different baked goods. But we chose and settled on biscuits because it's a product that best fit our lifestyles, as Lisa said, busy working mums. You can do 100 biscuits in an hour, or you could do 2 cakes in the oven. So we did the math, and on top of that, it turned out that there was a real category in branded biscuits, something that we weren't aware of when we started this little venture. But there was a huge demand from businesses that wanted biscuits completely personalized to their branding, their logo, their brand values. We do a lot of brand values that we print onto biscuits as well. So we kind of fell into that segment, and we've stayed in that niche.
What are the sorts of businesses that you work with, and what is it about biscuits? As you said, it was something you didn't realise was there before, but what is it about biscuits that corporates seem to find, and kind of how have you built the business off the back of that?
So it's very much a story of responding to clients' demands and needs. So we set out as a market stall because we missed the flavors from home, and we needed this little playing field where we could be ourselves again after having the kids and feeling that the corporate world wasn't really supporting us. We then fell into the biscuit world because of our digital marketing expertise. Like, we created a website, and then all these businesses came to us and wanted logo biscuits, and we realized that there was this niche. Because it is a niche, we have attracted some of the biggest brands in that are known to the Western world. We've worked with Google, Amazon, Meta, worked with the BBC, high-end clients like Karl Lagerfeld, Calvin Klein, Moynat. So it's been pretty wild, because some of those orders we did when it was still the two of us working from home, when our kids were asleep upstairs. But the website, we made no secret of it, but that's not necessarily what people saw. So I guess it's a story also of resourcefulness, of saying we only have 3 hours. How can we maximize those 3 hours? And that is essentially why we went into the biscuits. Like Saskia said, we could bake more in the time we had. They have a longer shelf life. They could be personalized much easier. And they're clean. I think that's what our clients often report back. They like it that they're wrapped, they're clean. It's not like a cupcake. When you, on your way out of the event, you get given a cupcake and you have your laptop and your tea and you're like, what am I going to do with this? Whereas the biscuit, you can just put in your bag and have it later, or share it with your partner. So that's something that people like about it. And then I guess the sustainability aspect, if you want to...
Yeah, sustainability aspect. From the start, we had the ethos of, it shouldn't just work for us as a business in a revenue model, but it should also not literally cost the earth. So all our packaging is either compostable or recycled. But also from the point, we only bake to order. There's no retail shelf with products and biscuits that go past the expiry date and then have to be thrown in the bin. We're incredibly conscious of the fact that, we want to limit waste. We absolutely hate waste. And the brands that really respond to that are of the same frame of mind. And more businesses these days are of that frame of mind, and we really shine in that department. And on top of that, for your question as well, why do businesses order biscuits? We're in the UK. Like I said, we're both not from the UK, but the UK loves a biscuit. So that really worked. And then in this day and age, people want bespoke, personalized gifts that really mean something to the person who receives it. And that is where we put a lot of our time and energy in. If you receive or order a biscuit from us, you tell us exactly your specifications. It might be a bespoke shape that follows your logo outline specifically. It might be that you want to have it printed in your brand colors. It might be that it's going to a person with a very personalized message attached to it. And because we only bake to order, we can go that extra length for all these brands and businesses.
Yeah, and I love them. I think, and I love that you've worked with lots of different size brands as well. So, and obviously you set it up and it's just grown. Can you tell our listeners just some of the practical things? Like you were working in a business, you decided to start this business, and it sounds like, Lisa, you definitely did, and Saskia, it sounds like you might have well not had the greatest experience of having children and returning to a corporate job. How did you take it from idea to turning it into something real? So what were those first practical steps you have to take, other than deciding it was biscuits?
Yeah, I think because ours is a handmade product, and in the beginning it very much was Lisa and me at our dinner tables, I should say. We're not actually married to each other. I think some people do think that. We had to make set a price on our time. I think that was one of the things that made our business viable, which is very hard to do as a starting business. But I think we took that part of it very, very seriously, because we knew we couldn't compete with a biscuit that you buy in Tesco. And that combined with our digital marketing background was huge. And the understanding that your product has to be good, yes, but the storytelling, the branding, the visual aspects that kind of come with building a business are incredibly important as well.
And what I'd say from a practical point of view, we basically grafted and did everything, the two of us, with the occasional friend or husband helping out when we were just drowning in biscuits, until we got to a point where we had a little buffer, because we didn't really pay ourselves because we still had the day jobs, and we had very little overheads because we were baking from home. So we had a little buffer in the bank, and we got to the point where the pandemic hit. Saskia's job got made redundant, unfortunately. 3 months later, I got a bit jealous that Saskia was working on our business more than me, and I quit the job. So we then had to make it work, basically. We had about 6 months time before we would have run out of our little buffer, to pay ourselves, to pay staff members, and to pay for commercial premises. And that was always the move we didn't really quite know how to make, because it is, like you say, how do you do that? How do you afford all that without investment? And even if you want investment, that can take years until you get the right one. And by that point, you're not fulfilling the orders you need to fulfill to keep growing. So we did it very gradually and very small. So what we did is we approached our old employer, because it was still post-pandemic, the canteen was empty, and we asked if we could use the canteen, and pay them peanuts every month just for that kitchen space. And they said yes, which was very generous. But also that's the relationship, I guess, we built with them. We were always transparent about everything. We were always really thankful. We always tried to make sure they get something out of this arrangement. So aside from paying them, they got free biscuits and also. And then we hired women on a part-time basis. So we naturally attracted working mums who were happy with, say, a 10, 15-hour contract, because they had kids in childcare, they had other things to do in their week. So that worked for us, it worked for them. And basically, as we grew, they grew with us, and they increased their hours. As their children grew and started school, they had more time. And that's that model that now people refer to when they say that there are other models that work better for working mums. And in a way, maybe they work also better for smaller businesses. I feel when you look on Instagram, you see these shiny SMEs, people in amazing offices with great cars. And I think that's one side of running a small business. We are more the grafters. We're the ones who did it bootstrapped, bit by bit, tiny blood, sweat and tears, tiny steps, baby steps. But it was the way for us, because we could also, by doing it that way, we could learn at every step and fail fast and make adjustments. And we didn't waste anything. We didn't waste any resources. We didn't waste any money. We basically just did more of what worked and stopped doing what didn't.
And I think that's a really interesting part of your story, right? Because you obviously, it was effectively a side hustle while you were both still working. That gave you that buffer. Then the pandemic hit, which is obviously a massive thing. And then you've kind of learned as you've gone. And then I love that you've picked up your staff along the way, and they've grown with you. And I think that is a very common thing we see in female business. Actually, we do tend to more likely to employ other women, and also we tend to take them on our journey. You talked about learning quickly from the failures. Can I ask you about tell us a little bit about the couple of things where it hasn't quite worked and you've had to pivot to do something else?
I think one of the things we tried, I feel like it was maybe 2 years ago, because obviously we sell to businesses and we're in the gifting industry. We kind of thought, hey, let's try sell directly to the consumer. So say yourself, you would come to our website and you would buy something for yourself rather than as a gift for someone else. So we tried to introduce a kind of like a well-being subscription biscuit box. Yeah, that didn't work. And that was, that was painful because we put a lot of time and effort into that. But we had to accept that that wasn't what the public wanted from us at that particular time and that particular presentation. And so we let that go. So you don't always get it right. I think, like Lisa said, in the main, we've gotten a lot of things right because of our ability to not rush to market and our ability to listen actually to what people say they want rather than us guessing what they might want. And I think that a lot of our avoidance of failure has come from listening very, very intently to what people say that they want.
And I think a lot of our big failures happened very early on during our market days, where we would bring 10 different products and make 15 portions of each product, and in the end we were placed next to a brownie stall and we could see them literally like making money, like the little money box overflowing with bills, and we went home with pretty much 90% of what we came with. And we noticed that people aren't that interested in the flavors from the continent, which is what we missed, but it wasn't what people wanted. So it was this, okay, great, this is what we want, but what do the people want? And again, those market days really helped to get instant feedback, because we always had free samples. People would try it, and just without saying anything, we knew what people liked and what they didn't like. So this A/B testing was really useful.
Yeah. And I think that is interesting, isn't it? Because obviously all of that marketing background that you had has really helped you finesse the business and grow it and learn and fail, and then, realise actually the B2B was much more what was needed, and you've created effectively an amazing niche for yourselves. So we've talked about some of the failures. Tell me about some of those like milestone moments where you kind of just looked at each other and went, wow. Kind of tell us about a couple of those.
I think the very first milestone moment was when we launched our website. I feel like it was maybe 6 to 12 months into running this business as a side hustle hobby. We got an email from Penguin Publishers asking for biscuits for an event that they had in Harrogate, and that was a real light bulb moment for us, where we were like, oh my gosh, Penguin Publishers is interested in this tiny little kitchen table venture that we've got going on. Like, is this for real? Like, what's happening here? So I say that was one of the first ones.
Yeah, I think more recently we were on a podcast with Simon Squibb, who is someone we quite like to follow because he's all about kindness and helping the underdogs maybe, and we went to Ideas Fest last year where we met him and we were featured on his podcast, and he had nothing but nice things to say about our business and had some great ideas. So when we do get through to those big players, it's really lovely to hear that they really like what we're building. We might just not be visible to everybody, but it doesn't mean it doesn't matter what we're doing and the few lives that we do touch. And another example is Mary Portas, obviously the queen of retail in the high street. She invited us, she handpicked, I think it was 20 businesses that she wanted to bring into a room, one in London, one in Manchester, to basically just have a market, an indoor market for a weekend. And they approached us and invited us along, which again is a great testament to I guess, the brand and the ethos around the brand that we've built.
Yeah, and I think that was a pivotal moment as well. I
Yeah.
think for us to understand that yes, we bake biscuits, but our real product is kindness, connection, appreciation. So the biscuit is a vessel from one person to another person in expressing those deep, sometimes a little bit less deep, but feelings. You are of value to me. I appreciate you, and I like having you in my life. And I think they are so important in this day and age, have always been. And I think maybe halfway into this business journey of us, that really clicked
In the
with us.
pandemic, mainly, I think in the pandemic, it was when we sent out free biscuits, because we looked at each other when the lockdowns were imposed, and we said we have to do something. We're not key workers, we can't save lives, but we can't just sit here and watch the news and count the dead like that. We have to do something, because again, that's the people we are. We just do something, doers. So we sent out free biscuits just with messages like "stay safe" or "miss you," and people could nominate someone, and we would just handwrite a message to go with a biscuit and send it to the sister who worked on a COVID ward, or the dad who had to isolate and couldn't meet anyone because he had a chronic illness. And those stories and the impact those biscuits had, that transformed everything. Because before then, even us thought, oh, we sell biscuits. And then we're like, no, hold on. We sell that feeling of people feeling closer to that person after receiving that biscuit. That is what our product is. And that's what we then capitalized on when we came out of the pandemic. And today we still send a weekly amount of free biscuits to keep that going, that paying forward, and allowing people to engage in this feeling of appreciation.
Yeah. And I think that's so amazing, because I think it's one of those stories where you were already on the journey, but the pandemic changed everything, right? And that learn during that pandemic really enabled you to connect what you were doing back to that kindness and that feeling of getting a biscuit and how that actually feels. And then you've used that to grow the business even more, which I think is brilliant. That kindness piece and that connection piece, I think, is clearly red threads through what you do. So what are the kind of networks and communities and supporters that have kind of lifted you up during the journey? Do you kind of, are there people who've mentored or helped you along the way, or have you just kind of cherry picked as you've gone?
Yeah, we've had, I think really off the back of that kindness piece, we have had so many people support and root for us that, we sometimes, have to pinch ourselves and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that these people are loving what we're doing. But within the Leeds community, where we operate out of Leeds, and there's so many women founders who have welcomed us into their circles, which has always been amazing, because they really understand, the point of view where we're coming from, and that support has meant so much to us in terms of visibility, in terms of business advice, etc., etc. But equally, a lot of male founders who give us their time and attention, and we can come for coffee any day of the week. And then organizations like Female Founders Rise, Emmy Faust, what she does has really supported and helped us along the way as well, and we give our support back as much, I hope, as we receive. Anything?
It's just, I mean, we could mention some names, but we'll probably forget about a few and then kick ourselves afterwards. But to keep it anonymous, I guess it's been deeply humbling to reach out to someone that you don't know that well and say, could you help me? And the answer is always yes, and it's always a loud yes. It's a sit down, when are you free, come round, or I'll come round. And people are so generous with their time, and I think if any, founders at a similar stage or maybe in earlier stages are listening, I would say don't ever not ask, because it feels like a big thing, especially if it's, asking for help. But we've had the most beautiful experience off the back of asking people for help. And I think that is probably on the days where you get a bit bogged down with admin or red tape. That's the stuff that stays with us. Oh my gosh, did you see that message from that and that person who was just so kind and generous with their time and their advice. So I think that is one of the highlights of running this business, of being connected to people who are 20 steps ahead, but they don't see it that way.
Yeah, and that paying it forward, right? And that kind of operating within that community. And I should say that you guys have been incredibly generous. And we had the biscuits for the launch of the podcast. And we are very grateful for that. And hopefully we'll get a way to pay it forward as well and shout about the amazing biscuits that you do. Now, you're co-founders. So I speak to lots of solo founders and how lonely it is. Tell me a little bit about what's it like running a business for somebody else, and kind of how do you navigate that? Do you separate things out? Do you just in there together? Kind of tell me a little bit about how being a co-founder works.
Well, it's been a journey.
Oh gosh, yeah.
10 years in the making. I think we often say what 1 + 1, I used to say 3, but now I'm going to say 11. 1 + 1 = 11. And I the people who do this by themselves, hats off to you, because the amount that we rely on each other, bounce ideas off of each other. In the early days, we were very much both on top of everything together, same inbox. Oh my God, I've replied to this person already. Oh, I just hit send as well. Let's hope the quotes align kind of scenarios. And it took us a while to separate, what's yours, what's mine, what are you good at, what am I good at. A business coach helped us in that respect as well, because sometimes you're just too close to the bone to really see what it is that you're good at and what your value is in the business. But now we've separated it a lot better, which means that we do better work with the time that we have, rather than both fishing in the same pond.
Yeah, but it's I don't think I could do it by myself, and I think Saskia has said similar things in the past. I think I don't know if it's luck or if you make your own luck, but we didn't know each other that well when we started this. We had no idea that we would create what the Biskery is now. I think we were just playing shop a little bit, and people liked it, and our obviously background helped. But it's uncanny really how aligned we are. It's quite often that I have like this feeling in my gut, and I'm like, I have to raise this with Saskia, and it's going to be a difficult conversation. And then we have the conversation and Saskia says, oh my God, I feel exactly the same. And we probably do that on a quarterly basis. And I think it's such a gift what we have, whether it's not just a business partnership, we are real friends and we're rooting for each other and we're learning together. And outside of running a business, we're learning so much about ourselves and the world. And I think anyone who just has an inkling about this person could be my co-founder, then I'd say follow that, because that's all we had. And it's been so much more than just a business partner, co-founder partnership.
Yeah, and I think I have to say as well, is that when we met in the digital marketing agency, I didn't think, oh my God, yeah, I'd love to build a business with this girl and 10x it. I thought, oh my God, I really like her. And I was drawn, there was something in me that was drawn to her being. And I just wanted to spend, some time with her, to be honest. And if we do that baking, then that's great. But to the point where we rock up in this interview now in the exact same colored T-shirt, which we do all the time without aligning these things with each other. So yeah, we're somehow two people from two different countries ended up in the same place running a business, who are very, very, very aligned in their values and their ethos and their vision.
Yeah, there's a bit of magic to that, I think. And it is, I think you're right. It's if you know and you've got that connection, I think it makes a huge difference. Hopefully it's a lot less lonely than doing it on your own. I'm really interested in what your future vision is. Kind of where does it go next? What's next for you guys?
I mean, next is we say we want to make 10 million people feel appreciated. And we're currently at a very low number. I think it's about 300,000. So we want to amplify our message, have more people know what biscuits mean to people when they're given with intention. That is our job, really, for the next few years, and how 10 million people feeling appreciated rolls out in the physical space of, we currently have the Biskery premises up the road from here. The puzzle of how 10 million people feeling appreciated in biscuit form will look in a physical commercial premises way is something we're still very much trying to figure out. But I think, as we've always done, is we plan, we try to foresee what's coming, but equally being incredibly agile again, with that listening piece to what is it that people actually want, rather than us dreaming it up for them. But it is trial and error and a reasonable, solid business plan that you got from off the back of Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, I did the 10,000 Small Businesses program with Goldman Sachs at the end of last year, because they would only allow one founder. So I did it. It's not that, that we're 50-50, but that was just something I took on. And one of the main the main focus areas for the next year is to build solid relationships with different customer segments that are more likely to place recurring orders, because of the digital marketing background. We've always attracted people who are in need of biscuits quite short notice, because they have an event coming up. They head to Google, they type in individually wrapped biscuits, and then they find us, and then they buy the biscuits. So that's very much, we are responding to people's needs, whereas now we understand more what occasions people order biscuits for, and we want to proactively reach out to companies, whether that's agencies who look after a portfolio of clients, and if we obviously can build a strong relationship with them and show them, make them look like the hero because we're reliable and we provide a good product, they then might use our biscuits for their other clients. So with one relationship we could create a pipeline. So I think that's where we are now, 10 years in, a bit more like, what do we actually need, rather than just responding to what's coming in. But in a way, that's a luxury problem, because it means up until now we've grown from just the demand that's coming to us. So that's the plan. And obviously with the world, which we are, watching with interest, but also horror at times, everything seems to go to machines, and we're very much embrace that we're creating a physical product that requires people. It's still a handmade product. It's something we want to continue doing. Some people, the first question is, but how do you scale? I think we've proven that it can be scaled. Maybe not to, 1 million biscuits a day. But we firmly believe that you can have impact as a smaller business as well. So you probably won't see us on supermarket shelves, but I don't think that's necessary to reach people and again, have that effect that we want our biscuits to have.
Yeah. And I love the ambition of the 10 million biscuits, and anything we can do to help to amplify you. So we help you get there from your... You say 300, we're only at 300,000. 300,000 biscuits is a lot of biscuits. So I'm just trying to imagine what a biscuit mountain would look like, and that sounds like a lot of biscuits to me, but I love the ambition to get to 10 million, and I think that kind of the individuality of what you do, I think, is what makes it so special. So we're right at the end of the episode, so I've just got one final question I want to ask each of you, which is, what piece of wisdom would you share with any of the listeners, especially if they're either looking to start a business or they're in business? What's the one thing you'd like to share from the journey so far?
Me personally, I usually say give it the time you have. I think a lot of people always say, oh, but I don't have time, I can't be, it's a dream. It's not going to become a reality, really. I'm just going to dream about this until perpetuity. And the reality is that when we started, we didn't have time. We were mums to young, unborn children even. And we had very, very little time other than what was granted to us at evening time after the kids had gone to bed. And I would say, whatever little time you have, even if it's half an hour a day, spend it on thinking about building your business. And over time, if you stick with it, if it really is something that you want, you will somehow create more time to spend on this endeavor of yours, and your business will grow. It might not grow from 1 to 100 within the first year, but give it the time you have, and over time the business will grow, and the time you can spend on it will grow.
Yeah, and I think to continue that thought I love the quote, clarity comes from action, not thought. I think so many people try to come up with this amazing business idea or invent something or do something no one's ever done before. The truth is you don't, because if you do it, chances are you put your stamp on it, and it is unique in its own way, and you are the USP of your business. So I'd say you don't have to reinvent anything, but start something. Just start somewhere, and then, like Saskia said, chip away at it, build in the dark, sculpture in the dark. You won't see what it is. No one will see what it is until one day you take the veil off and it's a beautiful thing. And I think that's what we're only just seeing now, but it's it takes time, and it's counterproductive maybe to the culture we live in. It's with the instant gratification and everything needs to happen tomorrow. I think most things that are worthwhile, like a relationship, a friendship, a career, they don't happen overnight. They require time and patience and attention. And that is the one thing I'd say. And also maybe to not lose the plot on the way is don't compare yourself. Don't compare where you are to, someone else's chapter 20, because it is heartening. By no means have a look and take from it the learnings that you need, but then switch it off again and focus on what you're doing.
Brilliant. I think a lot of fabulous wisdom, so thank you, and I agree with all of those, having just gone out on my own, having left a corporate career, so it is quite a roller coaster. So thank you for that, and thank you for spending time with us today. So Saskia, Lisa, it's been such a pleasure to get to know you a little better, learn a little bit more about your journey. We will put a link to the Biskery. Is it Biscuitry or Biskery? Go on, make sure I get it right.
Biskery.
The Biskery.
The Biskery. We will put a link to the Biskery in the show notes so that everybody who has a listen can go on, have a look, and hopefully get you that little bit closer to the 10 million biscuits.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for this week's episode of Women Are Good Business podcast, and thank you for listening. Now I need your help. We want to make the podcast huge. We want more people to hear about the stories of female founders,
We want to get the best experts in the world so we can grill them with your questions, and we can only do that if people know where to find us. So please help us make the podcast go viral. Like, follow, subscribe, leave us a review, drop us into a WhatsApp group. Whatever is the best way to share, please do share and come with us on the journey as we talk to lots of female founders and we show the world that women really are good business.